This time on episode 319 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we discuss Legion, Season 3, Episode 3, Chapter 22, and Season 3, Episode 4, Chapter 23.
I'm Ryan from the Dad.io podcast, a show dedicated to dorky dads everywhere. Part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other dad-alicious geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
You have been granted clearance by Director Alfonso Mack Mackenzie. Stand by for a S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. Director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Director SP.
And I'm Agent Michelle.
Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're a Marvel Comic Universe fan show. This show is recorded on Sunday, February 16th, 2020, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios and broadcast timeline-wide via www.geeks.live. Come and join our live chat and talk with us as we record. Michelle, happy National Almond Day.
I like almonds covered in chocolate.
Ooh. My daughter, for Valentine's Day, she surprised us, came home on Valentine's Day, which was just 2 days ago on the Friday, and brought me chocolate-covered pretzels. Close, but not quite the chocolate-covered almonds. Now I'm going to have to find chocolate-covered almonds. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
And I like lightly salted almonds as snacks as work. You can have 21 of them, I believe, is a serving.
Sure, I count that all the time.
If you're doing the calorie count for MyFitnessPal or what's it called, the Metas or whatever, then I guess serving size is applicable. But yeah, normally I don't. Anyway, let's get on with the show, okay? Otherwise, I'm really hungry for dinner and I haven't had it yet. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the ABC television show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is due to come back in a few months, the multiple Marvel small screen series like Legion, and we're covering that today, and the Marvel Cinematic and comic book universes in general.
Because salmon is a color.
If you'd like to talk to us about the different versions of color, including violet and salmon, you can catch us on our website at legendsofshield.com.
If you'd like to discuss your favorite color with us, you can leave us a voicemail at 844-THE-BUS1. That's 844-843-2871.
If you want to leave a comment to us on whether you're an 8-crayon color person or a 64-crayon color person, you can catch us on a comment on our Facebook page, which you can find at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Podcast.
You can find us on Twitter and talk about fish at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You can leave a comment on our YouTube video at youtube.com/GonnaGeek, all about the colors.
You can tell your Amazon device to enable Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill.
And remember, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is quite the proud member of the GonnaGeek.com network. Michelle, it's just you and me tonight. Haley is off doing Haley's stuff and enjoying the weekend. And Lauren almost was with us today, but she decided to take one last week off from moving.
Moving is just awful.
I can't disagree. Moving is awful, and I'm not looking forward to it. I've been getting ready for it for years, and I haven't made too much progress. So at least she's actually moved and in her new place, and she will be with us shortly. In the meantime, I think we need to talk about some Legion today.
You sure do.
Legion, Chapter 22 and 23, which is the third and fourth episodes of the third season, aired on FX on July 8th and July 15th of 2019. Michelle, who was the creative team behind episode 22, which is also Chapter 22?
This episode was directed by John Cameron Has 6 directing credits starting in 1978, including 1 Xena Warrior Princess, 1 Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, 1 Fargo, and 4 Legion. This episode was written by Nathaniel Halpern. 9 writing credits starting in 2010, 1 The Killing, 3 of Resurrection, 1 Outcast, 12 Legion, and 1 Tales from the Loop.
Chapter 23 was directed by Dan Kwan, who has 28 directing credits starting in 2010, including various video shorts of Children's Hospital, NTFS, SDSUV, and 1 episode of Legion. It was written by a pair of Olivia Dufault, who has 3 directing credits, not directing, but writing credits starting in 2019, 2 episodes of Preacher and 5 episodes of Legion. It was also written by Charles Yu, who has 6 directing credits starting in 2016, 1 episode of Westworld, a series that I've enjoyed, 1 episode of Here and Now, 1 episode of Lodge 49, 1 episode of Legion, 1 episode of Sorry for Your Loss, and 3 episodes of Dream Corp LLC. Now, Michelle, we're just going to scrap the theme of the episode by the title of the episode because there's no correlation whatsoever other than it's the number of the episode in the series, which, as Haley pointed out last time, the entire series is the equivalent of the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I know. Makes you think.
They've covered a lot of ground. I would dare say they covered more ground than the first 3 seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Just, I think writing is different and plot progression is different than it used to be.
Definitely. TV has evolved. We still have like episodic things like NCIS and such as the more traditional format. And we're getting this blend like with Legion and on Netflix, you know, like Sabrina on Netflix or Stranger Things. It's a very interesting time for television.
It is indeed. And I'm just glad to have the content that we have available to us. Now, in this particular case, the 3rd episode of the season, chapter 22, told the story of David's parents. And we've known for a while that David's parents were Charles Xavier and his wife, Gabrielle, but we didn't know how they wanted to portray it in the light of this series. Michelle, were you okay with how they portrayed the parental background here?
Oh, heck no. Oh, this episode. First off, yes, her mental illness can run in the family. That is the case. That was interesting. But the whole Charles Xavier being able to enter Gabrielle's mind and like flick a switch and she seemingly to him feels better, and him being able to do a mind trick and just walk out, it was disturbing. And the parallels between Xavier and David, you know, when we had season 1, we met David in a mental hospital. He sees Sid come in and he's just like transfixed. Xavier is already there and all of a sudden he notices Gabrielle and he's transfixed. And there becomes like this courtship and romance. But he's romancing a woman who has been severely traumatized by war and was in the camps. And he romances her in a very controlled space. I mean, think about it. Xavier was reading his doctor's mind. He technically could have done that mind trick any moment that he wanted to. He could have left at any particular time. He technically could have helped Gabrielle and then they could have left as friends. She could have experienced life and then perhaps gotten together that way. Instead, he romances her in this controlled environment. They leave. He takes her to this big house. And then after having a baby, leaves her. And not only mental illness, there's no cure. Okay. There is no cure. And one of the things they got right is that she obviously wasn't cured. Xavier thought she was, oh, she's now talking to me and all that type of stuff. Everything must be okay. No, she's still, and she talks about it, how like she thinks the sickness is coming back and she's all alone in that house. And then there's also a possibility of postpartum depression, which is a very real thing. And David is only a few months old. Postpartum depression can last anywhere from like till like the baby's 3. There's been reported cases of that. It's just, it was disturbing to me a lot.
Yeah, I think the whole thing was disturbing. I think this series in entirety is disturbing. It's all about mental games, mental superpowers, and mental illness, and it's very difficult to combine them all together. And I was wondering, is the reason why this seems to be so pervasive in comics and comic books, is it because it's a way for those that are affected to portray what has occurred to them? Or is this just somebody that is taking a bunch of plot devices and throwing it together into a story and creating this conflict?
I don't know. The way that they've handled it, especially with David being able to just basically say, like at the end of last season, I'm basically going to turn on my God powers and leave. There's been this running away from dealing with mental illness on this series. I thought this is the last season. I thought maybe some of the things were going to come together. But this whole idea of you have to be mentally ill in order to be different. There's this whole thing about, oh, if you're not a depressed artist, then you're not a real artist. Or the whole like, well, Van Gogh cut off his ear. So that's obviously, an artistic thing. It's not. Mental illness does not equal extra creativity. Mental illness does not equal, oh, you must be a mutant. It's two separate things, which I think at the season finale for season 2 was trying to address that David is indeed a powerful mutant and has a mental illness. And they just dropped it for this season.
Okay. It's kind of what I was thinking in terms of that. I didn't know if they were just trying to wrap up everything that they wanted to get to or not. I do remember there were some interviews with Noel Hawley and Nathaniel Halpern about the fact that they're done with this story. As of this point, they've told the story that they wanted to tell, which for a lot of showrunners that come into it, 3 seasons is a lot of times how much in the future that you think about. If the other plot points were some things that came up along the way or things that they didn't consider, I don't know. And I haven't seen the end. There's 4 episodes that I haven't seen that you have, just to tell our audience what the difference is between what our aspect of the perception of the series is at this point. I went into it with this really strange version of deja vu. We're back to season 1 in a lot of cases. You had the ugly boy, that doll. You knew the origin of it, but you didn't understand why it ended up in the crib with David. I would think if I was Charles, I would have taken that out. I mean, I know it might be a family heirloom, but wow. That was kind of messed up to me, and the whole thing's messed up. And along the way, David is trying it. Let me step back a second. If you stepped into this episode and did not closely follow the previous couple of episodes, you have no idea what's going on in the middle of this episode. You have David and Switch, who you can't see, are trying to affect the circumstances of what's going on to prevent David from being taken over as a baby. And they don't succeed. And Switch is just horribly affected by it. I mean, she's losing teeth. So they are not capable of changing things like David so desperately wants to do. And they create all of this time stuff that happens in the second episode. But let's stay on the first episode. How did you think of the fact that David and Switch were there almost the whole time and were not able to do anything about it?
It makes sense. In the last episode, she explained how she really can't go back too far. It's very strenuous. Also about how she couldn't take David. It's why they needed Mel Carey. And it's interesting that David, in his frustration of not being able to physically talk to them, he started to telepathically try to talk to them, which his poor mother is again wondering if her sickness is coming back, and she's hearing disco music and she's hearing other voices, and that is not good for her.
Especially since I don't think in that time frame, now we haven't firmly set time dates on everything, but I don't think disco had been invented yet.
No, because she talks about being Roma, and it's almost implying that that it was World War II.
Right. So it sounded like the camps were World War II camps. It's not definitive, but it sounds like that. So she was at least a little girl, I'm thinking, during the time of the camps, which would be the early 40s. If you extrapolate even 20 years later, you're in the early 60s.
Yes, and we were thinking that perhaps Legion was taking place in the 80s. We thought maybe 70s or 80s.
Be about right, because then David would have been in his mid-20s at the time that the series started.
Time has always been weird with this series.
And even more so now when you're talking about the time demons who are literally eating time.
Yeah, funny about, I guess Switch left out the part in her pitch to David about time demons, because when they she's like, no, this moment keeps happening. And he's like, what do you mean? And then she finally talks about time demons. And I actually liked Farouk's explanation of comparing them to termites. For those of you who have ever owned a home, your home can seem perfectly fine for a year, 3 years, 6 years. And then all of a sudden, things are starting to crumble and fall apart because you've had termites for a very long time. And that's what these little time demons do. They don't start at one end and just like eat. They're like termites. They come out and they eat this moment. They come out and they collapse this moment. They come out and they play with this moment here. And it has severe ramifications.
They are having severe ramifications. And David, he doesn't put him at bay. Farouk puts him at bay. David's constantly fighting them, and he's doing the stereotypical thing of doing the same thing over and over and over again. I think he actually knows that he's doing it over and over again, but it's not having any effect because every time he gets to the two-time demons, he's transported back in space and time away from them. Whereas Farouk at least understands what's going on and basically tells them that either you stop this or I'm going to kill all of you. And he's capable of doing it.
No, that's David.
Oh, okay.
David, in that moment, when he goes back, he finally is like, wait a minute. I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am God. And he actually skips himself to them.
Oh, yes.
And then is able to burn one of them. And then it's like, now you want to listen?
Farouk did end up killing one, though, right? With his sword?
Yes, that was in the time between time.
Time between time. That was very interesting. This series has always had very interesting cinematography, and this was one where it was almost stop animation, where they were taking a panel and then moving around, taking another panel, moving around, taking another panel, and allegedly that the time demons didn't have any advantage in there because they were all in the same playing field.
Yes, it was supposed to be their nest.
Ah. Looked like a giant mailbox to me.
I know, right?
I might have to watch these again, but I don't know if I want to because it was just such the mental drama that was going on, including Sid talking to her younger self.
That was interesting, especially when they talked about the shower scene again. Like last season, we learned about it, and then we were debating about like, she was curious, but like the border. And then when her younger self is actually talking about it, we actually get it from her younger perspective. I just wanted to feel something. I went into the shower, and if you think about it, she was just there, and they were face to face and touching. And then she said, all of a sudden, I was just turned around. And even though you're dating someone and you're together, it doesn't mean they have the right to treat you poorly in any stage, even in an intimate moment. Intimate moments should be communicated and should be shared and lovely. Obviously, from hearing it from young Sydney's point of view, it just went from like touching and possibly a kiss to all of a sudden her face against that door.
Yeah, the shower door.
Yeah.
And it puts to bed a lot of the questions that people might have had about the incident along the way, because Sid did go ahead and trick him. He didn't know it was her, but at the same time, it didn't matter if it was her or not. He was going to treat Sid's mom the same way, which I don't think is appropriate. That's my thoughts on the matter. And it does give a full, complete version of the shower scene. And I don't know if we're going to get young Sid again or not. That might have been it. And was that the same actor that we had earlier? I didn't check.
I'm pretty sure it was. I didn't check either, but I think it is.
Yeah, she said she was 15 or 16. I don't remember how old she was supposedly in the shower scene that happened. I don't know if I would be as calm if I was talking to a younger myself as Sid was. She just took everything in stride and she was like, okay, so what does this mean? Could mean that we just have this moment, or it could mean that the entire universe is going to fall apart. Have a drink.
Well, that's how she was dealing with it, was having a drink or 5.
I had no idea how much Jameson she had.
And it's very interesting how they actually hugged each other at the end. Then there was a time demon. And then there was that moment. That was odd.
I can't explain it. It says younger Sid is not there anymore, but was younger Sid moment eaten from time? And why does older Sid still there? I don't know.
Yeah, there's stuff that happens with Sid in the next episode. Or it's the one up at that. It's going to be one of the two we talk about next week.
Okay. The other thing that happened that was pretty important was Lenny's journey with her significant other and the baby, and her having her own inner light moment within the episode because of the time issues that were happening. I felt for Lenny after that. And at the end, Lenny said, no, leave me alone. Don't take it away from me. I need to feel this. Because she went through the entire stage of her daughter's life within the span of minutes.
Why Aubrey Plaza is not knee deep in, at least, I know the number of episodes you have to be in for a supporting actor, but at least a guest star, especially for this episode. Watching it again, it broke my heart again. And just seeing the devastation that David wrought. I mean, there she was holding the baby and, and again, toddler, young kid, teenager, all the way at the end. And her daughter going, Mom, you came like I knew you would. That was just, and then the moment her daughter dies, and then David had dealt with the situation, and then she's in that room all alone, and there's the picture her daughter drew.
It was tough. It was tough. And her significant other doesn't make it either. I don't see her around afterwards either. So she must have been caught in that same time as well. I didn't see what happened to her after the birth.
Yeah, some people, it seems as though some people kind of got eaten. Some people got frozen. And some people kind of got like eaten by the time demons. It's just really odd about what had happened. Like I said, termites.
We also have Ptolemy, who is dealing with it on the database side of things, and Carrie also is able to come back with Switch. I think we're going to see some movement in the plot because of that, because you have Farouk coming back with Clark and with the other Carrie, and now you've got Switch on the airship with everybody. I see some movement in the next episode about that. Now, I could be mistaken. We could have a side quest that occurs in the next episode, but it seems to me like it's time to start moving that division plot along a little bit more. And yeah. I know you can't predict because you've seen everything, but it just seems to me that that's the way it should go. So, of these two episodes, is there anything else you would like to touch upon?
Just how it's how David sees himself. I'm daddy, I'm Alpha and Omega, I'm God.
Yeah, the God thing was interesting. Kept on bringing that up. I'm God. I can do anything. But so he's in the camp cell with his mom. And then his mom starts to smile in kind of a wicked smile. Was that the indication that she was a time demon, or?
Yes, the time demons had basically read David and put that moment in there to try to trap him, because remember he got tackled by them.
Right.
And so basically they played with him. They were playing with their food. Just like Farouk said, sometimes they play with their food.
Yeah.
Or was it Switch? It was either Switch or Farouk that said that sometimes they like to play with their food.
I don't remember. Could have been either. I think it would be more Farouk than Switch, but it sounds like something Switch would say, but Farouk seems to know more about them than Switch does. Anyway, anything else?
No.
Okay. I am looking forward to the final 4 episodes of Legion. We are headed into that next week. We are taking these 2 episodes at a time. So next week we will be taking chapter 24 and chapter 25. We'll also have a little bit of a news item that's been in the background for a couple of weeks about what's coming up on Disney Plus and with the rest of Marvel with Phase 4. And I'm just looking forward to all that. And I'm also looking forward to having Lauren and Haley back. As much as I like you, Michelle, I like everybody. So can't wait to have them back as well.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, the dynamic duo thing here is great, but I miss my fellow agents.
Indeed. So in the meantime, Michelle and I are going to try to find the psychedelic tunnel and get on out of here. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us through Legion. We plan to go through Jessica Jones in just a few weeks. So if you have anything to say about Jessica Jones Season 2, let us know. And thanks for continuing to download the show.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who interacts with us. We appreciate it. And for, sticking with us as we suffer the drought between seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
We're starting to see some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. promos out there and posts like on Instagram and stuff like that from the actors. And yeah, I'm looking forward to not only what's behind the camera, but what we're going to get in front of the camera to close out Marvel TV as we've known it since 2013.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, I'm Director SP.
And I'm Agent Michelle.
We'll see everybody next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to gonnageek.com and you will find all our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com, and also artists on pond5.com and audiojungle.net. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not represent Stargate Pioneer Productions, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D, or Gonna Geek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D is the property of the Disney Corporation, Marvel Studios, and ABC. No infringement is intended. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D is copyright 2013 through 2020.